Welcome to the social-engineer.org podcast number 105.
Multiples of fives are good numbers.
Multiples of fives are good numbers. Is there a reason why you are in love with multiples of fives?
Nope, it's a feeling. Therefore, it's real.
Oh, boy. So, guys and gals, as you can hear, this podcast is starting off interesting. Dave is here for once. He has graced us with his presence.
You need to be very, very proud of me right now because you scheduled this again during lunch, Chris.
It's 12:40. I mean, you had 40 minutes to eat lunch. How long do you need to eat a potato and a salad?
What if I wanted to go and work with my team and have a little lunch out meeting that would take an hour? Now I have to leave at 11 or 11:30 to get back in time.
What is the lunch window, Dave? Can you define that?
I would say between 11 and 1 o'clock is the lunch window.
Wow.
What?
Maybe I'm hungry. I didn't eat breakfast early, and so I eat an earlier lunch. I go to like 11:15. Or maybe I'm full from a big breakfast and I want to go eat at 12:30. I should be able to make these decisions, but from 11 to 1 o'clock, it should be completely hands off.
1 day a month. 1 day a month. That's all I require. You can't give up your 2-hour precious lunch window.
Listen, there's certain things that are sacred to certain people. Some people have religion. Some people, like their families. Mine is lunch break. All right.
So you don't love your family or God. You just love lunch break.
I didn't say I didn't like either of those either. I'm just saying I hold my lunch break in a much higher regard.
No, you said some people have religion. Some people have families. You have lunch.
I'm saying that's one component of what makes me as a person, Chris. All right.
God or Aaron are listening. I'm sorry.
I had to heat up a portable meal that I have right next to me right now that I've been eating because of this whole snafu during the lunch period. So I'm not going to mute when I'm eating, Chris. You're going to hear me chewing. You're going to hear me chewing this entire time.
But you're probably eating a salad or something stupid like that.
It's a black bean little enchilada thing. It's all made out of spinach though. It's like a spinach wrap with
a black bean made out of spinach.
No. It's like an enchilada, right? But the wrap is made out of spinach, so you're not eating all that crap carbs. Then you have beans around it and some other stuff too. So and a lot of cheese. I eat a lot of cheese.
So, folks, this is the SEPodcast, not Dave's Lunch Hour podcast.
Whoa. We are also Dave's Lunch Podcast as well because we're doing this currently during my lunch. So
during his lunch bracket, yeah.
Yeah, your lunch is so huge that we can't possibly schedule a podcast. You need like 3 hours a day.
There you go, exaggerating again, Chris. Just like when I beat you on that pole that one time, you exaggerated that as well. And so there's a lot of exaggerations that happen.
So anyhow, we're super excited because we have a guest coming back that has been on the show for a while, and he used to be a part of the panel. No, it's not Bruce Hornsby. It's really not. It's Jordan Harbinger. Jordan. Look what I can do. Watch this. Dave is muted. I muted Dave. That's the best thing I've ever done.
I don't like this podcast software.
For good, Chris.
I really miss Jordan. I'm glad he's coming on. It's been a long time since I chatted. I mean, we talk back and forth through text a lot, but I haven't heard his lovely voice in a long time. So,
well, what's going to be exciting is Jordan has reframed himself. Actually, started a whole new business. No longer part of the Art of Charm. So we thought it'd be interesting to have a discussion about how you reframe yourself and start over after you established something so powerful.
Well, and he's kind of a pro at that, right? He's reframed himself multiple times. So.
Multiple times.
I didn't know that. That's huge.
Yeah, well, that's because I talked to Jordan more than you, so
Yeah, you're probably a better friend.
Yeah, I am. But that's okay. I forgive you, Dave. While I'm forgiving Dave, let's get Jordan on the podcast. We are back with our guest, Jordan Harbinger. Jordan, nice to have you on the show, man.
I feel like I'm coming home every time I come back on the show. Granted, it's a home with a bunch of kids running around naked and dirty, and there's toys on the floor, and you step on Legos, but it still feels like coming home.
That's actually a very accurate description. We got to get it out of the way up front because last time you were on, everyone that's listened to the podcast knows you were part of the panel for a while. We had you on, but you were part of a group called the Art of Charm. Some things have changed recently. What's going on?
So we're going through a split that didn't work out as planned. We thought, okay, we got different visions for the business. Let's negotiate something amicable. It didn't quite shake out that way. So me and a large part of the team have split off involuntarily, I might add, but we are now doing the Jordan Harbinger Show and Advanced Human Dynamics. So it's a separate company that does slightly different things, of course. That's an understatement. It does a lot of different things. But the show, the Jordan Harbinger Show, takes the skills, the relationships, and a lot of the great stuff that I've developed with some of my guests over the past decade and change. And I think, in my opinion, taken it to the next level, which is exciting. So this is it's a split that's long overdue, but it wasn't something I probably would have had the guts to do on my own. So having the Band-Aid ripped off has been traumatic, but certainly for the better in the long term.
It's interesting as a topic for me because you had a brand, you had a following, you were on Sirius for a while, XM, you're everywhere. And now you're basically saying, okay, I'm breaking off, whether it was your idea or not, and now you're going to start all over again. So it's almost like reframing yourself from the get-go.
Yeah, it's cool to reinvent yourself. Usually, though, we go, all right, I graduated from college, or I'm switching careers. Usually it's not like, oh, crap, I don't have a job, right? So I'll tell you what's saving my butt right now is the fact that I had practiced what I preached for a decade and change in terms of networking, developing relationships. We call it digging the well before you're thirsty, because a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, and I don't know how many people listening to this are business owners versus working in corporate, but it doesn't really matter. A lot of us, especially business owners and people in corporate hierarchies, procrastinate on this. If you're a business owner, I got to have my website up, I got to have my product prototype. Or if you're in a corporation, you think you might convince yourself, I've got to climb the corporate ladder. I've just got to keep my head down and get good work. That's how you move ahead in this game. And it's sort of true, but I think it's not up to a certain point. And usually we find out the hard way where we go, wait, I hired that guy 3 years ago. Why is he my boss on this project? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I love my network. I really like people in general. And so I don't view them as a network. I view them as just these relationships I grew over time. But I don't know that do you have any tangibles for how you've dug that well to have this nice?
Yeah,
helpful.
I do. And I'm so glad to hear that you don't view it as a network, because the reason networking isn't more popular is because the word has become dirty, right?
Yeah.
We view networking like, hey, Chris, nice to meet you. Whenever you need a used car, give me a call, buddy. Hey, financial planning? How are you saving for your retirement? And you're like, oh, can I see that pencil? I want to cram it into my eye socket real quick.
I swear you have to have this written down. That was just way too...
But it's true, right? Like whenever we meet people like that, we're like, I'm never going to this conference or this meetup thing ever again. I hate this. We hate those people and we don't want to become like them. So we go, networking is for schmoes. I'm not doing this. But the problem is if you don't learn this skill set of developing relationships like Kat seems to have done, you're not immune to the consequences, right? You can go, you know what, that's for brown nosers or whatever. You can make excuses about it, or you can have your mistaken image of what networking is really dictate your behavior, but you're not immune to the consequences. You're just being willfully ignorant of the secret game being played around you, or not so secret game being played around you. But a lot of people go, it's all about who you know. And they put like stank on the end of that comment. You can complain, it's all about who you know, but okay, fine. Why aren't people saying that about you? It doesn't mean you have to be inauthentic, disingenuous. Doesn't mean you have to stab people in the back, throw business cards in people's faces. You don't have to do any of that stuff when you dig the well before you're thirsty. So I actually do have drills and exercises and daily practices that I do for this. It depends how much of this you guys want to hear, but I'm happy to lean into it a little bit.
I think when we were talking about what's the theme, what are we going to talk to Jordan about? It was about how you reframed yourself to start over after you had a fully established brand, because I think there are a lot of people, like you said, that may be in a position where they're forced into this. They wake up one day and they no longer have a job, and now they need to reframe their whole life and how they're going to start over. I think this could be a really valuable piece of knowledge. So please dig into it.
Yeah, so a lot of people had different bits of advice from me when I was going through this. And I'm not making fun of these people. They happen to be really good friends of mine who have a different sort of outlook on how to reframe. Like, you should go to Hawaii for 2 weeks and just, relax and get clarity on what you want to do. I didn't really need that because I knew that I wanted to do the broadcasting. I knew I was going to continue to do events and online products and work with the majority of my team that I'd taken with me, or I should say that came with me voluntarily after I left involuntarily. And so what I was able to do is I had a lot of clarity on that, and I knew that I would get that clarity with my team and not just by going hiking or something like this, right? So the other thing that I recommend people do, because you can get a lot of clarity from your network, but I'm getting ahead of myself here as well. So let me just start with a little bit of homework for anybody who finds themselves like, oh crap, I might be in this situation now, or I'm worried that I'll be in this situation. I call this thought exercise layoff lifelines because it's catchy. But imagine that you get laid off or fired, which is laid off, but worse, from your job today. Make a list of 10 or 20 people you'd contact to solicit their advice on what to do next. So when you make that list, reach out to those people now when you don't need anything specifically. This helps shake the rust off of your outreach. And since you don't have an agenda, you don't feel slimy, because people go, oh, isn't it awkward reaching out to someone? Well, not really. Because if I reach out to you, Chris, and I go, hey, dude, it's been like 3 months, 4 months. I haven't talked to you in a while. How's business? Are you traveling a lot? I don't see you much on Facebook, but I heard that, the conferences are coming up. I hope you guys are doing well. And you write back, yeah, same old stuff, whatever, we're small talking and we catch up a little bit. That's different than if I did this though, Chris, hey, dude, it's been 6 months. And you're like, oh yeah, what's going on? And I'm like, hey, join Scientology. You're like, oh gosh, no. Right? Or like buy some like health shake recipes from me and then sell all your friends the same thing. And then we'll make lots of money. And then next time I reach out to you, you go, what does Jordan want now? Because I had an agenda last time. So we have to, and this isn't manipulative, right? We're actually reaching out to people to see how we can help them. And that's important. I'll get to that in a second. But we're reaching out to people when we don't have an agenda or something that we need for ourselves. Because then when we actually do need something, we're not coming out of nowhere after 2 years and going, because that's what's awkward about it, right? We know we didn't maintain that connection. So what's awkward is reaching out and asking for something, because we know that person has every right to be like, go fly a kite, man. I never hear from you. And now you want me to like email my entire email list, your dog grooming ebook and video series. This doesn't make any sense. If you maintain these relationships, and especially if you're adding value to these people over time, you won't feel awkward because it's just calling your friends for help, which is a totally normal thing for everyone to do.
That's such a great tangible. Do you by any chance have go-to questions that you reach out? Like, let's say you don't know somebody super well. How would you foster those relationships?
Yeah. So I do a little bit of research. It depends how well I know the person, like you said. But if I don't know them super well, what I will reach out and say at first, hey, Kat, I know we don't know each other that well, but I'm just curious because I know that you're friends with Chris and Dave and you're a regular on the Social Engineer podcast. I was wondering, what do you do? Where can I find some of your stuff? Instead of saying, what can I do to help you, which puts the monkey on your back, because you're just going to go, nothing. Because you don't want to figure out what I can do. And then like, how am I going to help you? Why would I never do that? Whenever people go, Jordan, what can I do to help you? I almost never have a ready answer, because I spent years going, oh, well, I really need someone who can help maintain my social media ad campaigns. And they're like, yeah, I'm a writer. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I need someone who can write long form blog posts. And they go, yeah, I don't know. I'm really more of a short form. And I'm like, why am I doing this? What I would do is I would go, oh, okay, cool. Where can I see some of your work? And then you're like, oh, my website is catisapodcastprofessional.net. And I'm like, okay, so I'll look at that and I'll go, oh, I see you record a lot. Who does your production? And you could say, oh, actually, I just let someone go recently. Or I'm always looking for good people because I have so much work that my current crew can't handle that. Now I've got a need ready. And I can go, oh, other people in my network can fulfill this need. And what a lot of people do when they're trying to maintain and create relationships, they're only really looking to match a need with a service that they provide. So they're like a graphic designer, for example, and they're looking only for the 1 in 100 people who need graphics. Everybody else kind of gets discarded. But if you're doing this right, and you're not trying to close business, but you're trying to add value, then when you say, I'm always on the market for good production assistants, what I can then do is go, okay, who in my Rolodex or in my head do I have that can do production stuff? And then I will reach out to those people and do what's called a double opt-in introduction, where I say, hey, producer Jason Sanderson, who does the Social Engineer pod over at Podcast Tech, how much capacity do you have to help other people? And he goes, always have room for people. Let me know. And then I go, hey, Kat, I've got a really good engineer that's been working on my show and other shows for years. You should keep him on speed dial. He's really responsive, really good at what he does. His website is podcasttech.com. His name's Jason Sanderson. You can ask Chris Hadnaggy about him. He's a good dude. And then I'm able to connect you two And I don't have to do other work, right? I'm not going, oh crap, now I've got to make Kat free graphics because I'm a graphic designer. It's a scalable way for me to build social capital by referring other people in my network to each other. So now, in theory, both you and Jason would then kind of, in air quotes, owe me one. I'm not then spending 3 hours of my morning doing work, right? I'm just doing these double opt-in introductions. And the double opt-in is really crucial because you're asking permission from both parties first, which is how you avoid other awkward things that prohibit people from networking, which is like, hey, Kat, meet Jason. And you're like, yeah, we know each other. In fact, we are neighbors. Like this, thanks for the totally awkward, like useless email thread. Or, hey, Kat, meet Jason. And Jason's like, I've been avoiding Kat for like 6 months. And now I'm on a thread with you. She knows I got it. And now I have to reply. Thanks for throwing me under the bus. Or, there's other reasons why an introduction might not work. Hey, Kat, meet Jason. And Jason goes, I have zero availability right now, Kat. Let's talk in 3 months. And you're like, great, I need someone now. This was also useless. So the double opt-in signals professionality, but it also makes sure that it's useful for both parties. And the psychology behind this is that if you say, yes, introduce me to Jason, and Jason says, yes, introduce me to Kat, we're not going to end up with that weird, and I put that in air quotes too, problem where one person emails and is like, hey, Kat, good to meet you. And you're like, I'm 6 months behind on email. I'm just going to delete this because I don't really care. It adds gravitas because you've already said, yes, introduce me. So to not reply would be really weird and you'd feel social pressure to do so.
It sounds like you're starting off, like your basis is you have to show a personal interest in this scenario that you painted in Kat because you went to her website, you looked at what it is that she does, you thought about, okay, Kat does podcasting, let me see who in my network might be beneficial to her, and then you presented questions based on that. So you actually put in some homework, let's say, before you even started the whole process of communicating.
Yeah, but people go, oh man, I don't have time for this. Here's the thing. That amount of homework where I go, hey, Kat, nice to meet you. That's as quick as maybe I have your email. So I go to your domain and I look and I go, oh, socialengineer.org. What is that? I've heard of that before. Oh, you kind of hack companies in a good way that helps them out. That's really cool. I know this show that's for hacker types. They might be really interested in talking to you. Do you know the hacker podcast those guys? And you're like, no, I've tried emailing them, but they're really busy. They never reply. And I go, oh, I know one of the guys really well. And I'll text him or something. So I can create that for you. I don't have to sit there and like read your book, your autobiography or something to find out more about you. I can make educated guesses. So I can say, oh yeah, you do this social engineer thing. So it's kind of like hacking, but you're a good guy. And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. So this is called the tornado technique. And what it is especially a lot of computer folks, that's a technical term. A lot of people in IT really suffer from this, engineers especially, which is and I'll throw myself in the ring because as a former lawyer and somebody who also does a lot of technical stuff in the business at Advanced Human Dynamics, what we do is we tend to get really jargony where you say, yeah, I'm in risk management for multinational institutions. And so if I'm talking with somebody who's in corporate, they're like, oh, that's interesting. Wall Street, financial derivatives, et cetera, et cetera. But if I'm talking with somebody in your position where I'm like, oh yeah, I do risk management for multinational institutions, you're like, cool, I don't know what that is. And that's fine if we're at a cocktail party, I can sort of explain it and bore you. But if I'm trying to get referrals to other people in your network, not necessarily for business, but to expand my relationships so I can help those people connect and thereby expand my relationships, you need to actually understand what I do. So with the tornado technique, instead of saying, yeah, we're a white hat security firm that does red teaming or something like that, right? That doesn't make sense to a layman. So what you might say is, I get hired by companies to hack into their systems and then report the weaknesses to them so they can fix it. And I'm like, whoa, that's really cool. You're like a mercenary that gets paid by a company to test their own security. And you're like, yeah, kind of. So when I tell other people about what you do, playing the game of telephone, I actually can understand and tell those people what you do in a way that they can understand, so that if anything happens where somebody goes, oh man, I keep getting hacked and it's really annoying, I can go, I know this guy that actually is sort of in the hacker scene and he breaks into systems and then reports on the security. Do you want an introduction to that guy? But if you said, I do white hat security pen testing, et cetera, I'm not going to be able to tell that person who would have given you business. I wouldn't have been able to connect him to you because I have no clue what that means. Does that make sense? So we bust down all the jargon into something that is like a child's game of telephone. It has to survive the game of telephone, or it's not a good description of what you do.
And I didn't mean to imply before that the initial stage was a lot of work, but it's just that the initial stage is not you thinking about, like, I'm not sitting here going, okay, what can Jordan do for me? And this is why I want to contact him. It's, let me learn a little bit about Jordan because maybe there's a point in time someday down the road that I will need him. So let me see if there's any way I can help him now.
Yeah, I would agree with that entirely. I think a lot of people make the mistake. So you've seen Glenn Ross, right? Where they're like, ABC, always be closing. You remember that scene with Alec Baldwin?
I don't.
It's a well-known movie, and Alec Baldwin won, I don't know, like an Oscar just for this scene where he's like, ABC, always be closing. And he's yelling at these sales guys. And so that works if you're in high-pressure sales. But what we say at Advanced Human Dynamics, we say ABG. So it's like always be giving or always be generous. And so what that means then is that instead of we're trying to close business, we're trying to figure out who in our network is a good connection to the person that we're talking to. And so you're not really putting in that much work, but you're putting in enough so that you can try to add value to other people in the form of introductions to other people in the network. So that makes it scalable. It makes it really easy. And it gives you a ton of social capital because you're just helping other people. Because you're in a specialized field, Chris. So if you started connecting corporations to me to learn body language and nonverbal communication, I'd be super grateful for that. It doesn't compete with you. But if I say, yes, I help people learn persuasion, influence, verbal and nonverbal communication, you might be like, Jordan does something where he I don't know, has body language workshops or something, but maybe that's not exactly it. But if I say, I teach networking, relationship development, and the body language to match, you'd be like, oh, you want to have your people get better at networking and relationships? This guy, Jordan, who I've been friends with for years, he teaches that for companies, right? I don't have jargon in there. You can tell some HR person who hired you or some other training person who hired you about me, and they get what I do immediately. They don't have to go, wait, same with you. They don't have to go, what is white hat pen testing? Let me Google that. Because they're not going to do that. They're just going to go, whatever, and next. And they might hire somebody who does exactly what you do, who just explained it better, because they're not incentivized to go and figure it out for you.
You might be familiar with Robin Dreek's work.
Of course.
We had him on recently, and his new book came out about the circle of trust. And he talks very similar messaging about building rapport and trust is really linked to your interest in the other person. And that's really hard to fake, right? So it's not just putting on a fake smile and being like, oh yeah, I really want to hear about your life. It's actually taking that first step to say without using words, hey, I'm interested in you and let me prove it because I just did these things. I read your website or I thought about this contact I have that may be useful in your world kind of thing.
Exactly. And this is how you build social capital really rapidly. Because think about this. If I'm in a room of 100 people and I'm just trying to close business for myself, in other words, match needs to a service that I provide. If you're in a group of people and you're like, hey, I want to sell some white hat penetration testing packages, good luck finding the needle in that haystack of people that need that.
Exactly.
So your opportunities are very limited. And then, of course, when you find one, your agenda is close this guy at all costs. Otherwise, I just flew out here or hung out at this party for 3 hours for like no reason at all. But in air quotes, if your agenda is add value to everybody that you meet by connecting them with someone else in your circle so that they both get value and you thereby kind of get some social capital by facilitating that, now your opportunities are with almost every single person that you meet, right? Because you'll meet somebody who goes, man, my website keeps crashing. And you're going, oh, okay, well, I do penetration testing. So if it's not hackers doing it, I can't help you. Okay, it's not hackers doing it. See you later, right? But if you go, oh, actually, I know some of the best web coder, designers, troubleshooters around. Do you want an intro? Now you've just given them a potential client and you've solved this problem for this random person that you met. You can do that all day and it takes minutes for each person because you're not trying to figure out what's in it for you.
I personally find almost every person a little bit fascinating. People are really interesting and what makes them tick. But I think you kind of have to put aside what you are interested in. As you're saying, if you're in a party, maybe people there don't know what penetration testing is. But if you find something that is interesting about them. If you put aside what you know about yourself, then you're kind of a couple steps into the game already. And you can just be like, tell me about what does interest you? What do you do? And start the relationship from there.
I recommend taking things to a personal level if appropriate, and you can get away with it, which is really good. The only problem with that is sometimes people are a little bit guarded. And if it's a female doing it to a guy, you always run the risk of like, oh, she's interested in me, which is really a bummer because it's almost like women can't look at guys at all, or they're like, yeah, she wants it, right? It's like there's so many problems with that. So you have to really toe that line carefully, unfortunately, because guys, we're so dense, we get the wrong idea. Any chance we get that one wrong.
That's actually very fair. When I use this style, I emphasize that I am married and have a husband in like the first 2 sentences every single time. But
I saw that not work the last time you tried that.
Fair.
You remember? That guy did not care that you were holding your wedding ring out and talking about your husband and saying, I can't wait till he comes in tomorrow and we're together. And he was like, well, you have tonight then, don't you? You know?
Wow.
It was like, so like,
dudes are weird.
Like, this guy is not taking a hint.
Wow. I'm so happy in my marriage. What do you do for fun?
Yeah. I cheat on my marriage, you know? I mean, it was just really so awkward. It was like,
oh
really?
my goodness.
Really,
Yeah.
dude?
Oh.
You know?
Hi, I'm here to stay faithful to my husband and get some business. All right. See you at the bar at 9 for a drink. No, you don't understand. Makes no sense.
Now, does that work in your experience, Jordan, in the reverse? Now, I know it's not women don't have the same problem of stupidity that men do, but if a man is doing that to a woman, does it seem like he's just hitting on her because he's showing this personal interest?
It depends. So it could, right? Well, let me just give a personal example. So if I meet Kat somewhere and I'm trying to figure out how I can plug her into my network, but I don't want her to get the wrong idea, sometimes I say, hey, you know what? My wife and I are obsessed with these escape rooms. Have you ever heard of these? And you go, no, I haven't heard of these. And I go, all right, so I won't bore you with it, but basically you get locked in this room and you got to solve these puzzles and there's kind of a little plot. And me and my wife have been traveling around the world doing it. They're really fun. I don't know if your brain works like that, but my wife's dying to play one. There's one we found. It takes 3 or 4 people. Are you here with your husband or something like that? Like you guys could come and play this game with us tonight if you are into that sort of thing. So I immediately throw that down as a personal question. What are your interests? And if you could even say like, oh no, you know, or I haven't heard of that. And instead of inviting you to something, I can even say, what do you do with your husband or your partner or your family to kind of kick back and relax? And since I started with mine, which was my wife and I are obsessed with this, my girlfriend and I do this all the time. It's a little bit like, and this isn't a universal hard and fast rule, but guys who are fixing to cheat tend to sort of sweep all of that under the rug.
Yeah, not mention the wife.
We're opening the door to what kind of personal conversation we're going to have, right? So I say, like, what do you do for fun, Kat? My wife and I are actually obsessed with these escape rooms, if you've ever heard of those.
My husband and I are too. We beta test the local place because we've gone so many times.
Which is so ridiculous, Jordan. As you were saying it, I was thinking, did he do OSIN on Kat to use this as an example? Or was he just guessing? Because you couldn't have picked a better, fake example to use, because Kat's probably buying a plane ticket to come and be with you and Jen right now at an escape room.
Let's do it.
That's awesome. We would love to do that because we are obsessed with these things. And
Stop networking with Kat.
Yes, you're right. Okay, fine. I will network with somebody else.
No, we'll do it later. No, I like it. I'll totally come out.
That really is epic. Like you were saying it, I'm thinking Kat is probably going, yes. You know?
A little bit, maybe a little bit. But you are, like, from the female perspective, that's totally accurate. Like, if a man leads with, oh, my girlfriend and I, or oh, my wife and I, or oh, my significant other's coming soon, it does immediately kind of put the conversation on a more equal footing. I no longer have to worry about where am I stacking up for you from your perspective. I am curious, though, because I've had a couple of times where guys have tried this, felt like they were lying, like their stories about their girlfriends felt very inauthentic. And so on the one hand, like, okay, you're trying to come off as unassuming, but also I don't know how to read the fact that this doesn't feel truthful. If somebody is not dating somebody or not married, what is your advice?
There's a couple other ways that we can keep things super platonic. The problem is, guys, we are so bad at sending and receiving signals that we can't have universal rules for a lot of this stuff. Because a lot of times it's like, okay, well, if he's not touching you, then he's not sexually interested. Not true. He could just be shy. He could know that is a little bit too much, etc. And so with women, I would say definitely keep physical contact to a handshake if you're trying to keep it platonic, because it's very tempting especially if you're an outgoing person, especially if you're like one of the guys, you work at a white hat computer security firm. It's really tempting to be like, hit the guys or whatever a little bit, or like be a little bit outgoing and sort of chummy. And a lot of guys can mistake that. So if you don't have a significant other that you can sort of drop into the mix, then I would say, first of all, keep the physical contact at a minimum entirely. And it's really tricky. And this is why there's problems in the workplace with this stuff, is because a lot of guys don't realize it's totally inappropriate. But I would say another thing that can be done is if you get a hint, a whiff of a guy being a little bit too forward and getting the wrong idea, shut it down politely right away. Because a common mistake, and I hate saying mistake that women make, because this should be something you don't have to worry about as females in the workplace, and yet here we are. So forgive me for putting the onus on you. It really should be on us guys, but alas, we're dense and we're not getting it. Shut it down politely, but do it right away. Because a lot of times what women will do is they're like, oh, I don't want to embarrass Jordan. So I'm like, oh, ha, 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 I'm going to laugh at this sort of semi-inappropriate thing or this semi-uncomfortable thing in hopes that you'll let it go, because laughing diffuses the tension. And then sometimes I might go, oh yeah, that didn't go over well. But 99% of the time I go, she's laughing. That totally worked. She's into it, right? Because I don't understand the difference between nervous laughter designed to diffuse tension and a signal of interest. So if the guy's really going for it, actually, here's a trick that I love that may work, but you have to test it lightly with the guys especially. And it works really well with guys that you sort of know are doing this too much. If he's like, hey, what are you doing? Let's get a drink later. Ignore that question and just go, actually, you could probably give me a little bit of advice on this. You know, when I go to these mixers and these events, what I've noticed is that a lot of times things get a little bit too personal for me and I don't really know what to do. And then the guy's like, oh, you mean like me asking you out for a drink? And you're like, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of like that. I mean, don't worry about it. But I'm just curious, like, I don't want to embarrass anyone. I don't want to have any problems with that. But, you know, obviously I'm happily married. You know, I'm not into that. I'm just here for work. The guy then goes, oh, I got rejected, but not really, because she's asking me for advice on this. So she still respects me, respects my opinion. But what you're really communicating is, hey, don't do that. Tell me how to get rid of you or stop you from doing that. So the guy will immediately stop doing that unless he's a complete space cadet, because now he feels almost like he has to protect you from other people doing that, especially if he's done it. He's probably secretly then hoping that you didn't notice that his last invitation was too personal. So this is kind of a really polite way to reject somebody from something, is to ask them for advice on rejecting them or other people from that exact same thing.
What advice would you give to the men who may be single, you know, who also want to network? Because they might not want to come off as, oh, I'm hitting on you, but I don't have a girlfriend or wife to crutch on. So what is the advice there?
Yeah, this is good, because I think a lot of the audience of the show is probably engineer males, stuff like that. Guys, keep physical contact to a minimum. It's not really something you have to overthink. Doesn't mean you have to, you know, this is not like Hasidic Jewry where you can't touch or shake hands with women or something like that. You don't have to worry about that. But a lot of times, guys, we just get chummy, and I get it, and it's fun. And sometimes guys don't mean anything by it, but we can't do that in a professional setting. It's not good. You always have to err on the side of more professional, which means less touch. Anything that's above the elbow joint on an arm, too personal. Anything on the back, on the torso at all, for that matter, too personal. Keep it to forearm and hand, and you won't end up with too much physical contact. You don't have to worry about it. So that's a rule for guys in any professional setting in general. The other thing is, you probably don't have to worry about people assuming that you're hitting on them if you're not actually hitting on them, because women are generally pretty evolved to smell that stuff coming. If you're a guy and you're like, oh, I'm here to meet people, you don't have to avoid every female in the room because you're worried they're going to think you're hitting on them. It's probably not going to happen that they think you're hitting on them when you're not. Usually guys lay it on way too thick. Am I right?
Usually you're hitting on us.
Yeah. There's also that. So if you're not doing that, then you don't really have to worry about it, right? So there's a lot of guys who are like, oh, I don't want her to think I'm hitting on her. Well, then don't hit on her, and she totally won't. There's very rarely somebody who mistakes it in a very earnest sense. They usually either know or they don't. So just don't do it. It's not worth it. I know guys are interested in the women that they meet because here's the thing. When you are an engineer, especially when there's very few women in your field, like engineering, when you meet somebody, you tend to signal interest, and that can be a problem. There's really no shortage of women in the world, so just make it a rule that you're not going to do that with the women at work. It's easier said than done, but it's a little bit of a scarcity mindset if you think the only women that you can meet are people in your professional sphere. That's more likely to hurt your career later on down the line. If you zoom out far enough to think about the consequences, then you probably won't be tempted to do this as a man.
Hey, taking a quick break from the show. Let's see what we have going on here.
You got accepted to DerbyCon?
I gotta say, so Dave's jumping ahead, but as you can tell, he's super excited. So Dave, when is DerbyCon?
Oh, shoot. It is October. You can't just throw that out there. I don't know the dates by heart.
It's your conference, man.
Yeah. It's not for a couple months later. So the training dates, which you will be partaking in, I don't know if anybody knows, but Chris's training got accepted. It will be October 3rd and 4th, and then the conference itself is the 5th through the 7th. So 5th, 6th, and 7th is the actual conference itself.
So listen, DerbyCon, man, if you guys just want a relaxing, easy con that's fun and it's not stressful, then DerbyCon's where you got to go. If you haven't been there yet, you really need to try to get their new event this year. We're at a new hotel with DerbyCon, right?
That's right. We're at the Marriott. We were there about a month ago planning everything out. It's going to be a lot more space, not as many people, not as crowded, much more of a chill type event that we wanted to do, but it's still a great hangout area. Really excited about the new event for sure. Is
that going to open up more tickets for folks to come?
Yeah, so what we're probably going to do is I think we capped out last year around 2,000 is kind of our mark of where we cut people off. We're probably going to do around 2,300 to 2,400 this year. It's over double the space of what we had last year. So we have 2 big ballrooms, 2 massive large spaces. We have the whole place. And so it's going to be literally double the space. We're only going to be adding a few hundred people to it. So it should space out more room and have a lot more fun with it, but it gives us a lot more room to do things that we wanted to do.
So check out the DerbyCon page. There's a lot of training, including our OSINT training that's there. And we'll be running SE Village out there again. So I'm super excited about that. Be looking for the announcement coming soon on SE related stuff out of DerbyCon. Right before DerbyCon, only like a month or 2 months and a half before, is DEF CON. So we've just closed all the CFP and SE Village signups. The only thing you can sign up for now is SECTF for kids or SECTF for teens, but you need to be a kid or a teen to do that.
But if you are a kid or a teen, you should definitely do that because it's going to be awesome.
You really should, because, I mean, this is like the year of the craziest stuff we've ever done. And we're a little low on the signups right now. So if you're bringing your kids or your teens out there, sign up for those events so we know that you were interested, and then we'll keep planning and working towards that. We'll be at a Black Hat. Ryan's training the OSINT course, 2 of them for 2 days, and I got the APSE course going on out there, so we'll be out at Black Hat and then DEF CON. I'll be in the UK in just a couple of weeks doing the class in Bristol. There's a couple seats left there if anyone's interested in signing up for that. And my book, just finished my book, 4th book, Social Engineering, The Science of Human Hacking. So I'm super excited about that. Hey, you want to hear something really cool? I'm going to actually...
Is it really cool, though?
It's really cool.
Okay.
Cool for me. I mean, I don't know how cool it will be for everybody else, but it's really cool for me. Right now, if you go to Amazon and you find the book, it's #1 in new releases.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done.
Woo. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like, that means a lot of people are pre-ordering it, which is a little shocking, but awesome.
I also pre-ordered it, by the way.
Well, thank you, Dave. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm going to burn it afterwards.
That's okay. Just save the page in the intro where you are mentioned.
Oh my gosh. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I love you. I love you.
I mentioned it. Well, look, listen, this is what I really feel about this before we end the break here. 8 years has passed since I wrote my very first book, and the experience in the community here has enhanced my ability to write this new book with a lot of experiences, a lot of different work and relationships that have occurred. So I feel like this book is a culmination of 8 years, which would not have occurred without many people, some of them sitting right here on this podcast. So love you. Anyhow, that's about it. I think we should get back to the show. People are done listening to us yap about this stuff. So let's get back to the show. You think about how many conferences exist in this industry. Like there's probably, if you wanted to not work ever again, you could probably go to a conference a week every week of the year in the InfoSec industry. So people do tend to go to a lot of conferences throughout the year. And maybe they're not, like we don't want to use the bad word. They're not designed to be networking opportunities, but they can be. Many people come to conferences because they're looking for a new job or they're unemployed and they want to find employment. And these tips, I think, can be really helpful in learning how to communicate, maybe open up some of those doors.
I truly believe that, not using the bad term networking, but any opportunity can be a networking opportunity. It just depends on how you find the right people or who you connect with to a certain extent. Maybe Jordan can explain this a little bit better because I don't know the mechanics, but like now that I'm in my professional career, I have a whole slew of close friends that, probably like 30 or 40 people, please don't fire me, Chris, I would turn to, and they've come from very random places. Like I met one of my best friends who now works for LinkedIn when she was working as a barista in a coffee shop, and another woman in a workout class. So I think that, the InfoSec conferences are not designed to be networking opportunities, but really you can find quality people in the most random places. So maybe always think about it as this could be an opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. I don't believe in networking, quote unquote. You shouldn't be doing this just at events and mixers. You should be using every opportunity that you have. That's why people hate the networking thing, because they're like, oh, I'm at Starbucks and some guy's like, here's my business card. That's not what we're talking about. To be clear, what we might have is you might literally be at Starbucks on a slow day and you're talking to the barista while they make your drink. And you go, hey, did you go to school around here? And they go, yeah, I'm going to school for communications. Oh, okay. What kind of communications? Well, I really specialize in graphic design. And you go, oh, okay. So they're not a career barista, right? And you go, how do kids find jobs nowadays after they graduate from school? Oh, you know what? That's the trick. I actually have no idea. Well, look, I know a ton of IT people. I work in the industry. Send me an email with your portfolio and I'll keep my ear to the ground for you. Great. Thanks, man. Here's your coffee. You can then put that person into your network, your systematic maintenance or whatever you do. And then if you need somebody who can do something like graphics or somebody in your network does, you can plug them in with that person. And you can say, look, this is a student. She'll probably take less money or possibly do it just for the resume builder. That's a really great opportunity to do that. But you're not at Starbucks like, I need to network with the people that work here. It doesn't make any sense. So what I do is when I find somebody like that, I often will give them a card and tell them to send me something. And you'll find that half the people will never do it. And you're like, yep, good thing they didn't send that, because I would hate to introduce them to somebody and then they just fall off and never reply. So that's a good screen. But if they do reply, I use CRMs and things like that to remind me to chat with people and renew those. I also, if I add people on social media, I import the birthday calendar from Facebook into my calendar. So I see when people's birthdays are, and I set an alarm for 3 days before. And I wish them a happy birthday 3 days before. So what this does is it cuts through the noise that they're going to have on their birthday of just random birthday messages. You'll often be the first one. It's a way to re-engage a really distant or dormant tie every single year and find out what they're up to. It's like zero time. So I have to send 5 people an email every day, like, hey, happy birthday. What are you up to these days? Half of them don't reply because they don't remember you. And the other half are like, oh yeah, I'm just about to graduate. And you're like, oh, send me an updated portfolio, right? These are the ways you cultivate these opportunities. You don't have to go to some networking mixer for your industry. You should be developing relationships with people inside and outside your industry. Because look, if you're in the InfoSec industry, you and everybody at that mixer already know tons of people in that industry. That's great. What you might not know is who can actually bulk import hardware to India, right? Or who can handle this stupid health insurance problem I'm having with my business and my employees. You need broad contacts as well. So you're not going to find all of the contacts and connections you need just at the conferences that you go to.
Man, good tips, Jordan.
Yeah, thanks. I actually made 13 videos with stuff like this, not to be super shameless plug, but at advancedhumandynamics.com, if you click level 1, we just send tons of drills and exercises some of the ones that I talked about here, but I've got so many little things that people can do in like 5 minutes that will help re-engage or make their network stronger, because this is what's saving my butt right now. When I left the Art of Charm, it was super sudden. And I thought, okay, well, at least I have the skills I built over 11 years. And I'm like, well, oh my gosh, how am I going to do everything on my own? But then I didn't have to, because a lot of the team came with me. And I thought, that's really good. I don't have to train everybody. So I did what I recommended in the beginning of the show, which is reach out to a ton of people that I knew were close friends of mine that would help. And they helped. And they also made introductions to dozens of other people. And I thought, wow, if I hadn't been creating and maintaining these relationships, I would be so screwed right now, because I would be alone, having procrastinated creating all these relationships, that I'd be just begging people where I have nothing to offer. Hey, can I please come on your show? I'm in trouble now. I need to rebuild my audience. That's a bad place to be. But if you can reach out to 100 people and say, hey man, I know we normally talk about other things, but I'm in this weird situation, you're going to find out that you have a ton of support. It's going to be what gets you through those hard times, because most people are going to be really keen to help you if they've known you for a few months or a few years. Nobody likes to see somebody they like down. It's not good. People want to help where they can. The people we don't want to help are the people we go, hey, I emailed you 7 times, but now that you need something, suddenly you're in my inbox. What the heck is that? Or like, oh, I haven't heard from you in 3 years. And the investment in maintaining those relationships for those 3 years could have been as simple as, over 3 years, 6 text messages or 6 email threads where I just check in, see how you're doing, an introduction to somebody. Chris, you and I, and Dave, you and I, we talk like every other quarter or something like that. But I don't feel like if you guys needed something, I would be there right away. I wouldn't be like, oh, now you need something, right? So you don't have to talk with people and get coffee every week to consider them a friend who can help you if you need something. And you shouldn't consider other people too distant to help just because you're not in the same area as them either. Maintaining these connections is so simple. We don't bother digging the well before we're thirsty, because deep down, most of us think we're just never going to be thirsty. We're like, I'm good. I've got a successful business. I don't really need to maintain this relationship because I've got clients coming in, or I only need to focus on meeting corporate people who can hire my company. And that's not true. It's just not true.
That's a really valid point there at the end, is people may not take this because they're like, no, I'm really good. My business is great. I'm hiring people. So I don't need you. Let me just not take this advice. And then that's really going to be poor timing when you do need it.
You don't know anybody who goes to the gym once and goes, all right, I'm strong now, and then never goes back. I mean, those people aren't very fit, right?
Yeah.
So, and yet here we are when we do networking and relationships and stuff, and we're like, oh yeah, I met that person once and didn't need anything from them. And it's like, okay, you're kind of missing the point. And you end up with all of these issues. I can tell how good someone is at creating and maintaining relationships by the questions they ask, where they go, oh, how do you reach out when it's awkward? I understand that it's awkward sometimes, but usually reaching out to someone and saying, hey, I saw that your kid had a birthday, that really cute photo you put on Facebook. That's not awkward. Hey, Chris, I saw that your kid had a birthday, really cute photo. I really need a job. That's awkward, right? And the reason is because you don't care about engaging with that person. You just need something. Hiding your agenda is what's awkward. If your agenda is, hey, I should say hi to Chris because I haven't for a long time, that's a really safe agenda to have. That's what I call opportunistic network maintenance. So for example, if I'm on Facebook, I see my news feed and I see someone had a life event, I have a choice. I can click like, I can make a comment. All of those are going to get ignored. I might be able to email them. Maybe they'll see that. But, if they just had a baby or got married, they might not. So I call those types of engagement below the fold. But above the fold is a text message, one of those little audio messages that I kind of hate, but serve a purpose, a phone call, or if appropriate, seeing them in person. Because Facebook is deciding what's important and what's an important life event for somebody. So why just engage on Facebook and get lost in the noise? Use that opportunity to strengthen the relationship with someone else. If I see someone got married, I'm going to send them a note or a message. I'm not just going to click like on the picture of them with their bride. Nobody looks at who liked a photo and goes, let me thank each of these people. right? Nobody even looks at the comments and goes, let me respond to each of these people. But if you send them a text, they're going to read it within like 10 minutes and go, thanks so much. I know you just got married. How is it? You're going to end up in a conversational thread. You just jumped like 1,500 other people who just clicked like. Now you're maintaining that relationship, and Facebook is the one that reminded you to do it and gave you a reason and gave you a conversation starter.
I know we're coming up on the time. You got to run soon. I got a question that I think may be asked by many people listening to this. Literally, there could be thousands of people that get met on a monthly, annual, whatever basis. It doesn't seem like it's reasonable to apply this advice with thousands of people. So how do you determine who do you keep this network relationship with and who you don't?
Sure. So this is a problem that I think a lot of people think they're going to have, and they sort of don't. So bear in mind, for the last 11 years, I've been building and maintaining relationships. I've got multiple thousands of people in a CRM, which is like a resource manager. I use this program called Contactually, which allows me to go through my Gmail contacts, and it's like, hey, do you want us to remind you in 90 days when you haven't talked with this person for that long? And I'm like, no, or yeah. And so I have it remind me every week, people I haven't talked to within 90 days, 45 days, et cetera. And then I can send a quick follow-up email, text, or whatever. I've got a ton of people in there. And every Monday, I spend like an hour for the entire week going through everyone and reaching out, everyone I haven't spoken to within 45 days or whatever the timer is that I've set for it. So think about that. This is my job, right? I teach this. I've done it for over a decade. And I have to spend an hour a week on it, sometimes a little bit less and sometimes a little bit more. So if you start right now, you're not going to have 3,000 people that you have to keep up with all the time. You're just not. That's a problem that you're going to have years and years and years later. And the way that you filter people out is you just go, wow, this person hasn't responded to my last few messages. They're obviously not that interested in keeping in touch. And you can ignore them from there out. But even so, even if you have 3,000 people that you're keeping in touch with regularly, so what? You spend an hour and 15 minutes a week keeping in touch with all of them. That's so much leverage that it's really worth it. So it's kind of an imaginary problem because people go, how the heck am I going to manage this? But by the time you have that many connections, each connection is so good for your business and for your personal life that you value it so much that an hour and a half each week is such a no-brainer to maintain it. That's one of those questions where people go, how am I going to make time? If you have a valuable network, it's worth the time. And until you have that large network, the investment of time is so small that you don't even notice.
Let's just say imaginary, let's use a make-believe name. Let's say there's a guy named Dave who I no longer want to have as part of my network. And I don't want anything to do with him. How would I end that relationship?
I think that if you're ending a relationship, it would normally be for a pretty darn good reason.
I'm pretty hurt by this hypothetical, Chris.
I just picked a name out of the hat, man. That wasn't.
Why's it got to be Dave though? Why couldn't it be Kat or Jordan?
I don't know anyone named Kat that I don't want to be friends with, or anyone Jordan I don't want to be friends with.
You know, sometimes you hurt my heart, Chris.
I love you, Dave.
It's not mutual.
If somebody like really did something awful, then I would probably not speak with them anymore and let them figure it out. But if somebody did something that requires confrontation, that's something else. You know, if they stole money from me or something, that's another deal. The most common scenario is if someone's a taker, right? So let's say that there's somebody named Ryan who all they do is they only come to me when they need something. It's actually quite annoying because they come to me all the time, but they really only come to me when they need something, but they just happen to need something all of the time. So for that, I might actually say, hey, Ryan, no problem. Do you have a moment? I'd like to talk to you about something. And I would actually say, might even get on the phone with them and go, hey, I'm happy to help you. You know, you're a small business owner. Us small business owners, we got to stick together. What I've noticed, though, is that the last few times you've reached out to me, you need something. And I get that. We only really think about our own needs a lot of the time. But what I've found is that my relationships are really strong. In part, that's because I usually reach out to people when I know that I can help them with something. And I'm happy to keep helping you, but I would say that there's a lot of people that you're probably reaching out to that might be ghosting you or getting a bad taste in their mouth because every time you reach out to them, if you're doing the same thing as you are to me, it's really only when you need something. That way you're not saying, screw you, you only reach out when you need something. You're saying, hey, this is hurting your social capital and your reputation. And so that's going to hurt you in the long run. So this, oftentimes, that person will actually say, wow, I never thought of that. Thank you so much. And they'll actually thank you for letting them know that. Now, after that, if they're still a taker, you can just kind of ghost them slowly. It doesn't really matter. There's no reason to be like, you're still asking me for stuff. Blocked, right? You just tell them what's going on and give them a chance to grow as a result of this, because chances are it's a young person who just graduated from college or something like that. They don't know this stuff. The reason I teach this stuff at Advanced Human Dynamics is people don't know this stuff, man. Grown-ups don't know it.
And I was joking about Dave, but I mean, there are reality that there are people who are just negative influences. You know, like when you do meet them or talk to them, you could just kind of tell they're not in the same mindset. They're not going to be a positive contact for you to have. And maybe even the way that other people feel about them, you can kind of say like, this guy or this gal, really not a person that I want in my network. Do you just decide to not reply, or do you actually call them out on that?
If they're really negative, this is funny. I actually had at a front row seat for something like this. There's a friend of mine that was just going through a really negative time, and he was venting to somebody else. And this person was like, man, you know, Josh is really like in a dark place or something. And I said, yeah, you know, I think he's going through a divorce and all this stuff. And he's like, oh, okay, I understand that. And I thought, you know, we can either just ignore this or we can sort of call it out. So this other mutual friend, he did a really great job with this. What he did is he reached out privately and said, hey, this might be my imagination, but I normally know you as this really positive person. And lately, you've been kind of a little bit of a drain. Is there something going on in your personal life that might be affecting the way you show up to others? You don't have to share it with me if you don't want to, but I would encourage you to think about it, because people who don't know you as well as I do might really think that bringing kind of a negative vibe into what they're doing. And I don't want you to lose relationships as a result. And if they're like, you know what, screw everybody who thinks that, then yeah, you're done with them. But if you shine a light on this, what this mutual friend of ours did is he goes, you know what? I didn't even think about this. I've been getting kicked so hard lately going through this whole BS with my kids and wife that I didn't even think about the fact that I'm just unloading on all my friends. I bet you I've been doing this for weeks. And then we go, yeah, you know, I'm happy to hear you vent, but I'm actually really happy when you're happy, and I want to figure out how to help you get there. And usually the person's not like, great, make me happy. Usually what they do is they go, okay, I need to examine the way that I'm talking with other people, because this is not helping my reputation. And you tell them that as a friend, and instead of going, F you, Jordan, for highlighting this, they're like, oh man, thanks for highlighting this. I had no idea that I was probably doing so much of this. That's a person with a growth mindset. Somebody who says, you don't understand how hard it is for me. Wah. They don't have a growth mindset, and you're going to have to put them at arm's length, or you're going to get, they're called energy vampires. They're just going to drain you every chance they get because they're so miserable.
That's really good, Jordan. Tell us, how do people find out more about your company, your new show? Where do they go to get all this info?
Sure. So you're listening to a podcast right now. I would love it if people would look into the Jordan Harbinger Show. Every episode has practical stuff like the stuff I've been talking about today. Advanced Human Dynamics at the level 1, that has all the networking stuff. But the podcast, man, I'm telling you, is I interview generals and CEOs and CIA agents, and I ask them about body language and how they read people. And every episode is about teaching skills to the listener. And every episode has worksheets. It's called the Jordan Harbinger Show. And if you want to learn the networking stuff, like I said, Advanced Human Dynamics is where it's at. And we'll do our best to teach you in videos. And then we're going to have a live event soon at some point.
That's awesome. And that will be on the website, I assume?
That will be at advancedhumandynamics.com. Yeah, the live event's going to be in August, either in Vegas or San Diego. Haven't decided yet.
We always ask, you know this, you've been on the show before. Lots of our listeners love to read. Do you have any book recommendations that you've been reading lately?
I do. One that I really liked recently was, and let me get the title right here. It's by this guy, Benjamin Hardy. It's Willpower Doesn't Work is the title of the book. And what he does is he talks about how your behavior shapes your personality. A lot of us think our personality shapes our behavior, but it doesn't. Our behavior actually shapes our personality. And if you can't control your environment actually controls you. So the whole interview was about setting up your physical environment for success. And it's not just like, don't keep junk food in the fridge if you're trying to lose weight. This guy does it really well. He has like 4 foster children who come from these broken homes. And now they're all successful in school and they are learning really well. And he set up the environment for them in that way. And this guy, he's the #1 writer on Medium, which is, that sort of blogging platform. #1 writer on Medium. I think he had like 300,000 followers or something bananas like that. His writing is very to the point, very practical. And I interviewed him for the Jordan Harbinger Show about how your identity is not fixed. You change your behavior, you change your environment. It can actually change who you are as a person. A lot of us don't realize that. So we become kind of slaves to our environment and to our behavior, but we don't realize we can program ourselves not using willpower. Trying is one thing. You run out of try eventually. But if your environment's set up for you to succeed, then you don't have to try. It's the path of least resistance is sit down and study because the book is here and there's no distractions and it's quiet. Sit down and make sure this happens because the environment is eat healthy. Why? Because that's all you have in your house, healthy food. That's easy to cook. So it becomes easier when you craft your environment, which we get into a very explicit way, then you will begin to change your behavior, which actually changes your personality, which changes who you are at the core level, which is really great. It means that no matter what we're dealing with, we can fix it. And it starts with our environment, not with trying harder or more discipline.
Yeah, that sounds like a great book. Really great recommendation. Thanks, Jordan. This is a great podcast. Really interesting. Totally different topic that I thought we were going to cover.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm happy to come on and talk about reframing ourselves, in a few months or something, because we didn't really do that. And I think we'll have a cool sort of retrospective view because my new show is only 11 weeks old.
Yeah.
Right. And it's already got like 3.5 million downloads or something. So in 3 more months, it should be in a totally different place. And then we can actually talk about reframing ourselves. And I'll have a little bit more credibility because I'll be able to say, look, it's been going for 6 months, not quite 90 days. And we're doing this, So I think it'll be really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Okay.
Sweet.
Yeah, well, this was actually really fascinating. I'm glad we didn't have the topic planned because I think it came out really dynamic and not only entertaining, but really educational. Good tips on all the things that you brought up there. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It's always good to talk with all of you, and I apologize for not letting all of you talk more this time, but I had a lot to say. What can I say?
Yeah, no, dude, talk as much as you want to. It's past lunchtime, so we should be good.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jordan. Man, that was another awesome podcast.
He has so many good tangible takeaways. I feel really happy leaving the audience with something to actually do.
Right. Most of our podcasts where people come on and they give something like that one that we have with Dov Baron, when right after that, everyone was emailing like, oh man, I love it because I actually used something he said on the podcast today. And it happens when Robin comes on or when we have Nick Furno. I know that people are going to listen to this and they'll be like, I used that at work today. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm literally looking up like personal CRMs for myself right now.
Because I use like Google a lot for that kind of stuff, but it doesn't have the features that he was saying, like remind you that I haven't spoke to you in like 90 days or something. That's
exactly.
a good idea.
I do it mentally right now, and I do not think that's a good system. I'm sure there are very good people I've let slide through the cracks.
Man, I would not be able to do it mentally. I think it's too much. But great, awesome feedback from him. It was good to hear him again. I'm really happy that he landed on his feet with the whole breakup.
For sure. And it kind of sounds like he hit the ground running. It is always rough when you have something so unexpected happen, but it's wonderful to see people kind of grow and blossom from that.
Yeah, I like the direction, though. This sounds so much better for him. The things that he's teaching now, the things that he's talking about. Really excited to see where his company goes in the next few months.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see.
I always love having Jordan on. He's great.
Yeah, he is great. And he's easy to talk to. And he's well-spoken.
Yep.
When he does like little monologues, you're interested because he's saying interesting things.
Yeah, like when it's just Chris talking.
Yeah, it's boring.
Yeah. By the way, congratulations on your new book. I didn't know about that.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I literally last night sent in the final piece. So
that's congratulations. Those things are so much work. Having done a book myself, it's a huge feat, man. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm actually more excited about this book than any other book I've written so far. Yeah, this is I feel really good about this one. I feel really, really positive.
Well, it sounds like a reason to bust out a good whiskey.
Oh, it does. We should probably get a group thing going on and do a little celebratory
Team long distance happy hour again. I did actually enjoy that the last time we did it.
Yeah, that was fun. Hey, well, if you're interested in following any of us, you can follow Kat at
Kat Murdoch. That's CATMURD0CK on Twitter.
And Dave at
Hacking Dave.
There we are. And of course, corporate is SOC Engineer Inc. or myself at Human Hacker. Websites are social-engineer.com for the corporate stuff and social-engineer.org. Okay, until next time.
On the 1st of November, and remember you were born a chosen of